are essential to success in IELTS Task 1. You won't necessarily use all of them every time, but you need to know these 9 words that I'm going to show you, or 10 words, depends how you look at it. You need to know these words so you're ready for pretty much any kind of infographic that comes your way. Now, most of the time, and most of your practice, I'm sure, is graphs. Okay?
Graphs.
So we're going to start with looking at graphs, and we're going to look at these 2 words. Fluctuate, a verb, okay? And fluctuation, a noun. Now, from my experience checking students or test takers' essays, this word is quite often misused, okay? I think sometimes people are not exactly sure what this word means. So, to show you, I'm going to show you a graph here.
Fluctuation.
This is a fluctuation. Let's say we're looking at a span of 2000 to 2014. So we're looking at 15 years of sales. Let's say.
Apa saya? Bisa? Atasnya dulu lah. Atasnya dulu itu. Dorong ke atas. Sangkut. Oke, mana pengambilnya? Lepas. Kosong. Mari. Hah?
Sakit sekali kepala.
Sales and whatever the number is, 100 of millions, okay? Fluctuate means to go up and down quite rapidly, okay? It doesn't have to be rapid, it could be steady, but there's an up, there's a down, there's an up, there's a down. If you're going something like this, this you don't call a fluctuation. Even though it's not a straight line, it's still not a fluctuation because overall, the sales are still going upwards. They're still increasing. Fluctuation, there must be some downward movement as well. There's up and there's down from, let's say, from the starting point. So here we go up, down, up, down, up, down. Here it's mostly up. You very rarely go down below where you started. So overall, you have an upward motion. This is to fluctuate. So you can use it as a verb. Over the span of the recording, of the record, of the 15 years, sales fluctuated from, let's say, 100 million to, and ended up here, let's say it's a little bit lower, to 110. So overall, there was a slight increase, but sales fluctuated throughout the period, okay? You can use fluctuation. If you want to talk about the graph as a whole, you can say the graph shows fluctuations in the sales numbers, okay? The graph shows fluctuations, sales fluctuated. So you can talk about whatever's on the x-axis itself, or you can talk about the graph as a whole. Use fluctuate for whatever item is here, use fluctuation for the graph as a whole. Next, plateau. Now, I know most of you probably know this word. If you're doing IELTS, you've heard this word before and you've used it before, but a lot of you don't seem to understand that plateau can be both a noun and a verb. Just like peak, the highest point, can be both a noun and a verb, okay? So, just to make sure we understand, something is going up, it stops for a while, it goes steady, it goes up again, it goes steady. This area is a plateau. This area is a plateau. So, we're going to use the same information, sales and time. So, sales increased for the first 5 years. Then, they plateaued. for the next 7 years.
Nanti kata
After
dia apa ya?
which, they started to rise again until they reach their next plateau.
Enggak mo.
So you see, I've used plateau as a verb.
Mandi ko siya.
They increased until they plateaued. Then they continue to increase until they reached their next plateau. Verb,
Plateau.
noun. Both of them are okay. Try to use both of them. And make sure that you're referring to something. Now, if you have something like this could be a plateau. But if you're going like this is not a plateau. A plateau usually is not very short. It has to be somewhat extended. If it's too short, then it's just a little pause. It's just a little steady pause. If it's extended, then you have a plateau. And then, let's say it increased again. Actually, I'll use a different color now so we're not confused. And then start declining. So sales increased, they plateaued for a while, then they increased again, then they plateaued again, and then they increased again until they reached their peak.
Orang bukan dengarkan suara pelajaran lagi, suara dia yang didengarkan.
50. Okay, so sales continuously increased until they reached their peak of 250,000. Now, again, peak can be a noun or a verb. Sales increased until they peaked at 250, after which there was a sharp decline over the next 3 years. Okay? So sharp decline over the next 3 years. Now, if you have the opposite way, you have sales going down. Excuse me. Sales are going down, down, down. Now, technically, you could say they bottom out. Bottom out means they reach their lowest level. But a safer way, because a lot of people also misuse this expression, the safest way, until they reach their lowest point. Simple is best. But peak, you pretty much have to use because you can't say there's going to be a lot of highest points, highest point, highest point. You have to have sentence and vocabulary variety in your writing. So use peak as a noun, use peak as a verb, use plateau as a noun, use plateau as a verb. Okay, let's continue. You've already heard me use this word, overall. Again, overall does not mean in conclusion. A lot of people use this word to introduce a conclusion. Overall basically means you're looking at the whole graph. So you're looking at the entire span of something. Here we're looking at 2000 to 2014. This is your span. Okay, this is the duration of the information. How long this information is being recorded on the graph. Okay, so you can say that although sales started very low and they fluctuated and they reached a peak and then dropped again, overall there is an increase. What does that mean? It means from this point to this point there is an increase. So don't say it went up, it went down, it went up, and it went up for this year, then down for this year. Just say there were fluctuations, but overall, sales went up over the span of the report, of the reported information. Okay? Now, of course, we're speaking about span. You must use this word. A lot of people do not use this word enough when they're talking about time, a graph with time. Okay? So again, span is the duration from the beginning to the end. And again, span is both a noun and a verb. The graph shows an overall increase over the span of a decade. This word is crucial. Whenever you're talking about movement over time, you always talk about over the span of. Okay? Now, you don't say in the span of a decade. If you say in the span of a decade means between 10 years, something happened. Over the span of the decade means you're talking about beginning to end. So it's very important to use this preposition with span, with motion. It's a verb. The information, spans 15 years. Means it goes from, let's say, 2000 to 2014. It covers 15 years of recorded information. Span as a verb, span as a noun. Try to use both. Now again, remember, you don't want to use the same word more than twice in an essay, unless You're using it once as a noun, another time as a verb. You demonstrate command of this word, which will get you a little bit extra points if you use them correctly. Okay,
Ya katanya
let's look at some
mau
other
ke
words.
Bangkok ya.
Okay, so now we have a few
Bangkok.
more words we're going to look at. Now, the reason I chose these is because these are very, very commonly misused. Okay? People send me their samples, they want me to check them. I fix these words all the time. People always make mistakes with these words. Ages. If you're going to talk about age groups within your charts or tables or graphs or whatever, then you're going to use these words. Now, let's say there are groups. There are 4 age groups, 18 to 25, 26 to 35, etc. If you want to talk about this group, now there's 2 ways you can do it. You can mention the young group, the middle group, the old group. Or, if you want to talk about the specific ages, you can say those aged. It basically means who
Satu
are
keluarga yang
aged 18 to 25. So this is a participle now, a reduced adjective clause, okay?
jajah.
Those aged 18 to 25 were asked to do this. Those
Terakhir.
18 to 25 years of age were asked to do this, okay? This is the exact same meaning. Those aged 18 to 25, those
Kelahiran, akte kelahiran.
who are, although technically who were, because I used were here, but you get the idea. Those who were 18 to 25 years of age were asked. Years of age. Or those 18 to 25 years old. Do not mix the two. If you use the word age,